in deserts in Australia. And in fact, kangaroos outnumber, between kangaroos and wallabies together, they outnumber humans at least 3 to 1 in Australia. And so here we call these exotic animals, there they call them varmints and pests. All right, you guys love to walk around and pet these for a minute. I gotta go make the bottles for them.
They're softer than you think, huh?
Yes, really soft.
They like to follow and tie your shoelaces. bottles. This isn't it, this is Diet Coke. I don't think that would work out too well. I don't have it.
Where'd you get some?
I know, they're like, oh, you got a bottle. I feel bad, guys. This isn't it. So did he tell you all their funny names?
Yes.
So the little one, the reason we named her Phoebe is because she runs Jack up, like from Phoebe from Friends. So Phoebe and Rachel. Like those boots, Fallon?
Yeah. They're both scooting. Right.
We have too much fun.
All right, guys, if you'll hand me the phone, I will make a video for you. What's everybody's name?
Well, I'm married. She got my name wrong on it.
Oh, not Betty.
Yeah, she got my name wrong. I think that's why I didn't get my letter.
Generally, she's not putting the name in, but, it's not what I do. All right, so we got Mary. There's one. Does anybody else have a name?
Henry.
Terry, Mary.
Joseph.
Terry, Mary, Savannah, Joseph. Hey guys, we're here at the baby kangaroo bottle feeding at the Ocoee Riverside Farm. We're here this morning with Terry, who is feeding the baby kangaroo Max, Mary, who's feeding the baby kangaroo Rachel, Savannah, who's feeding the baby kangaroo Ruby, and Joseph, who's feeding the baby kangaroo Phoebe. Phoebe is 9.5 months old. She came out of the pouch July the 12th. She currently weighs 11 pounds. When she came out of the pouch, she weighed about 3 1/4. Rachel is 1 month older than Phoebe. She weighs about 16 pounds. Ruby is 15 months old. She weighs about 28 pounds. Max is also 15 months old. He weighs about 31 pounds. These guys are all red kangaroos, but the redness of a red kangaroo is a male hormone-driven trait. So the females turn this bluish-gray color right away. The males remain red throughout their lives unless they are neutered or very old. These guys nutritionally, the only one that still needs this bottle is Phoebe. In the wild, at 10 months, they would be weaned. However, in captivity, we feed them bottles for as long as they want them. We usually find that ends at about 18 months. We feed them bottles for a crazy long time because that is how you get the friendliest kangaroos. Guys, look up at me so we see your faces in the video for a second. There we go. And it is October 10th, 2025. We are at Ocoee Riverside Farm in Benton, Tennessee. This is yours, right?
Hey guys, we're going to be doing a sloth encounter in just a minute. This is Flash. He's a two-fingered or two-toed Linnea sloth. We're live here at Ocoee Riverside Farm, and we're going to be hanging out with a bunch of sloths this morning. I'm going to see if we can actually even show you Zoe. So this is baby Zoe, and she's catching a couple naps right here. But we're gonna start the encounter with Flash here in just a second, and you're gonna be able to hang out with him. It's gonna be awesome. Alright guys, we're live here at Ocoee Riverside Farm. This is Flash. We're getting ready to do a sloth encounter, so keep watching. We have over 150 animals, including sloths, kangaroos, llamas, and alpacas. We actually have 4 sloths here at Ocoee Riverside Farm, but Flash is our oldest. We also have Dash, Zoe, and Chloe. So come on out to Ocoee Riverside Farm and visit us. We're gonna feed Flash here in just a minute, so keep watching. It's gonna be really cool.
So we'll all squeeze in here. And come on in. Flash is already out and ready for us. A lot of people miss him when they first come in because they're not looking up. But this is Flash. So we call Flash our old man, but he's only 7 years old. So for a sloth, that's really not old. In captivity, the oldest sloth we know of lived to be 54. Yeah. His name was Jan. He lived in a zoo in Germany. And so you guys are going to feed him his breakfast this morning. When you go to feed a sloth, you have to keep in mind their eyesight's really poor. So you'll offer him the very end of it, but as soon as he gets a hold of it, you'll just let it go. So their eyesight's poor, he's not going to be able to tell the end of your green bean and the beginning of your finger. So you just let it go and he'll take in. And sometimes if it's a bigger piece, he'll snap it off before and he'll drop a piece and that's fine. We've got plenty for him. So you guys can kind of filter through that. Green beans are definitely his most favorite, but we try to offer him all that, see if he'll take any of it. Sometimes it kind of takes him a little bit longer to think about if he wants it or not, but
They're
when
all
we're petting
soft.
him, don't be sure and kind of use the back of your hand like that and go with the grain of the hair. And so a lot of people are tempted to do the cat scritches on their backs when they're petting, but sloths don't really enjoy that too much because they are in the wild. Sloths would have a lot of other animals that could potentially try to eat them, and so even though Flash has never been exposed to anything like that, it's still something that he's hardwired into him to be a little more cautious about. And that's why the legs of a sloth too are really sensitive, because in the wild, I mean, you see he's on the underside of the branch. A jaguar is going to be on the top side. The first thing a jaguar is going to grab onto is probably going to be a leg, and so that's why they're pretty sensitive on a sloth. And their paw pads are as well. So the leather paw pads that they have there are really sensitive. They have a lot of nerve endings in them, and that's what allows the sloths to know what they're grabbing onto, because they really can't see. All they really see is just a shadow. Let me fix it here.
So say 3 toes.
So it can be kind of confusing. He is a two-toed
Oh, it's
sloth.
2 toe, okay.
He is a two-toed, but on the back he has 3.
Yeah.
So all sloths have 3 claws on the back,
Mhm.
and it's the front where they differ in the amount. So I guess it makes more sense to call them 2-fingered and 3-fingered sloths, because they'll all have 3 on the back, but you have to look at the front there to be able to distinguish the difference. Let me just readjust here. Wait, bud. And so we've had Flash for about 3.5 years. But when we first got him, he was already a little bit over 3. And so he was pretty much, the facility that he came from was basically kind of like a zoo, where he was mostly just observation. You know, his enclosure was back behind some glass. People could walk by and see him, but never had any really hands-on interactions like this. And so when he came here, of course, we didn't start out right away with these encounters. It took him really about the first 2 years of having him. When his enclosure goes up 20 feet, so he would stay up at the very tippy top of that enclosure and would not consider coming down if somebody was in there with him. And so he thought that John was a weirdo for the longest time, because he would spend hours just sitting in the floor of his enclosure, talking to him, trying to get him used to, you know, just his presence. Because beforehand, he only had somebody just go in to put food in his dish and then come right back out. And so it was a big adjustment for him. But slowly, over time, sloths are very routine animals, and so once they've established a routine, they really like to stick to that. So once he started to realize that it's not harmful, he can come down, and you guys are welcome to come over too. You can feed at the same time. He won't hear at all. But he started to realize that, you know, he would come down, and most of the time John would have little treats in there for him. And so he would start to come down, and it took him a while to go from, you know, he would just hold the bowl up like that and he'd start to eat out of the bowl, to then bypass the bowl and just go straight to his hand.
What is that?
That's a mixture of rice. It looks kind of gross because it's got some of his supplements in it, but rice, sweet potatoes, and dog food, soaked dog food. And so it's dry, but we soak it in water and then mix it into it. So that's where they get their protein from. Dog food and bulled eggs are where they get their protein. In the wild, yeah, in the wild, two-toed sloths are kind of opportunistic omnivores. So if they came across like a small bird's nest with some really young baby birds in it, they would most likely take that opportunity to kind of meet some of their protein requirements.
Chicken nuggets.
Yeah. And some of the bigger facilities will actually opt to feed them pinkies, those little mice that have not even developed hair yet.
Yeah.
And they do pretty well on that. And of course, if it was an actual requirement that they need a live form of protein, we would do that. But they do just fine with the high quality dog food and the bulled eggs. So 2 hard bulled eggs a week is all of the protein requirements that they need. 1 bulled egg has 16 grams of protein in it. So it's a very small amount that they require, but of course all animals need their protein. So
Don't come here, baby.
don't be shy.
You,
Oh, zucchini.
sloths are her favorite animal.
Yeah.
It's like a bucket
Trying to
list
sit
thing.
that. No, do, in like captivity and stuff, do they have, moths that live on them?
Moths? Yeah, so in captivity, no, in captivity they don't have any of those moths. Those are only in the wild. And so most people don't even know that that's a thing, that the wild sloths have all those on their back. But it's really important for them. And so they do have a symbiotic relationship with those moths that will live on their backs in the wild. Thankfully not in captivity though, because I think it'd be pretty gross to hold a sloth that had, anywhere from 100 to 200 moths living all over their back, yeah. You're working on it, bud. Sometimes those sweet potatoes, it gets them stuck in his teeth and they can't get it out.
Gets wedged.
And so all those teeth are actually all pointed, and sometimes when he chomps down into something harder, he's like, oh, it's stuck. You working on it, bud?
Got it?
He's like, it would take too much energy to remove one of my
I
claws
heard,
from this
I heard
branch.
they come down and poop once a week.
Yes, that is true. That is very true. So the reason why, even in the wild and in captivity, they do that, they go all the way down to the floor. They'll hold on to the trunk of the tree and kind of wiggle their little booties back and forth as they're going to the bathroom. And that little wiggling movement will signify those moths to crawl down off of them and lay their eggs in the dung pile of the sloth. And so it's important that the sloths do that, because those moths are really important for their health and they need somewhere to repopulate. And they can't, even though those moths have wings, they can't really fly that well like other moths can. And so they really need direct contact with the surface that they're trying to get onto to be able to get there. So that's why the sloth has to go all the way down. And then a week later, when the sloth gets the urge to go to the bathroom again, they have to go back to that exact same spot. Even if there's several trees over and they get that urge, they'll make the trip to go back to that same tree. Because if they don't go to the same spot, after those eggs are laid and they turn into larvae and then the larva turns into moths, those moths don't have anywhere to go and they'll just die out in the dung pile. But if the sloth goes back there every time, last week's eggs that were laid that are now this week's larva will be next week's moths, and the cycle just always goes around and around. And it's important for the sloths to have them on their back all the time, because sloths will use a bacterial process to digest their food and not an enzymatic process. And we're born with those enzymes, but the sloths are not born with that bacteria. So they'll get the first little bit from their mothers, actually from the mother's mouth, there's her saliva. But then after that, they need those moths on their back because they will produce that bacteria in their waste. And so when the sloths grooming themselves and licking themselves, they'll lick up some of the moths themselves to meet some of their protein requirements and lick up some of that waste to be able to get that bacteria in their systems. Because in the wild, temperature is always fluctuating. Overnight, the temperature in the rainforest can drop as low as 65 degrees depending on the season that it is. And that is no bueno for a sloth, because they cannot maintain their own body temperature. It just takes too much energy, too much work and
It's
effort
the
to do
warm
that.
room.
Yes, exactly. And so in captivity here, we keep them in a stable environment where we never let them get cold, so we never have to worry about that bacteria in their system being deteriorated. But in the wild, if the temperature dropped, their body temperature dropped, that bacteria would be completely wiped out, and then they would have no way to digest their food if they didn't have those moths on their back. And so that's why in captivity you don't need any of those moths.
Wow.
Yeah, but it would be really detrimental if we made a mistake, like left a door cracked overnight in the winter and it dropped way down and the enclosure temperature dropped, their body temperature dropped. Then there's not a whole lot you can really do, because they don't make any form of a synthetic bacteria to give to them. So they're going to have a pretty rough time being able to digest their food after that. What do you think, bud?
A little short.
What do you think?
So sweet.
Sometimes you just gotta keep.
They
that
are
and kinda
softer
get
than
it
I
like
thought
that.
that they would be.
And he looks pretty coarse too, especially there on his back end where he's got all those cowlicks. but they're actually fairly soft. Now in the wild, they would be a lot more coarse because they'd have a lot of moss and algae growing all throughout their fur, and the end of their hairs will kind of almost break off and make them a lot more brittle. And the reason why they're able to form all of that greenery there on their back is because each individual hair of a sloth will actually have a lot of tiny little micro cracks throughout them, and that's what gives them the ability of that water, the rainwater, after they get rained on multiple times, to kind of gather in those little cracks, and over time will form that algae. Because sloths don't shake like dogs do when they get
So
wet.
they have split ends.
Yeah, basically.
How does
Very
he
relatable.
not get tired hanging like that?
That's a good question, because for us, if we were to try to hang like that, we would get really tired, because the way that our hands work, this is my relaxed state. It doesn't take any energy to have my hands open, but to squeeze down and make a fist or hold on to something and have all my body weight dangling from that, that's what's more difficult to do. I'm using muscle and energy to do that. But for a sloth, their claws work opposite. So for them to be clamped down onto the branch like that, that is completely effortless, and they're using no energy to do that. But to open up that claw and straighten it out, that's what's more strenuous.
Guys, there are a few interesting goats out here. The three tallest ones, brown and white is Larry, black and gray is Bo, black and white is Curly. Curly are the three fainting goats. Fainting goats originated here in Tennessee. They used to call them Tennessee fainters. Now they just call them either fainting goats or myotonic goats. When a fainting goat faints, it does not lose consciousness. It's startled, stiff. So they're walking along and something surprises them, and they're like, and then they just tip over and fall down. It is what surprises them, not what scares them, that makes them faint. They are every bit as likely to faint from a balloon floating by as they are from the big bad wolf chewing on their leg. The original idea on fainting goats is you put a fainting goat out with your valuable livestock, and if a predator would come, the fainting goat would faint and get eaten, and your valuable livestock would escape. But these days, so many people are so in love with fainting goats, they themselves are the valuable livestock. You just get a dog. And buy the most valuable, I mean, regular Nigerian dwarf goats about $100, and a fainting goat for unregistered deer male starts at 1,500, goes way up to that. The three tallest ones, that's Larry, that's Bo, and black and white is Curly. out here to shear. I went to Tractor Supply. I spent $250 on the most expensive set of shears they sold. And I came home and commenced shearing animals. It took me 3.5 hours to shear the very patient llama Cusco. So the second year I hired it done, and I was going to make a video series of how someone that knows what they're doing shears animals. It was a short series because it took the man 4 minutes and 7 seconds to shear the same llama that took me 3.5 hours. Two basic differences there. One, knowing what the heck you're doing can't be overstated. And two, having a $5,000 set of shears and a $3,000 blade sharpening machine and an infinite bucket of blades you use for 2 minutes at a time versus, these can be sharpened. Makes a difference. So we're very happy to see that man come here once a year. He'll be here for 2 hours. He'll shear everything on the entire farm in 2 hours. And in 2 hours he'll make $1,000, and he only takes cash. So, good business if you're in industry of brave, strong, good man, because it is dangerous work. Alright, the next thing out here, that little brown and black animal right there, that animal's name is Shoat, because that is a sheep that looks like a goat. And she is a black belly sheep. That is a hair sheep versus a wool sheep. All these other sheep out here are wool sheep. The black belly sheep is a meat sheep, so that is a very lucky, unlucky sheep. Unlucky because its mother rejected it, so it was a twin, it was rejected. Lucky because it was on a meat farm, now it's on a pet farm. So its life expectancy just went up by about 700%. Tortoises anywhere?
No. Didn't you say one was in there?
All right there, one's in that house. One's in that cage right there, one is inside that house. Around here somewhere. Oh, look at Thomas real quick.
Yeah, where is he?
Hey, before we all walk this way, let's look at this turkey for a minute. This turkey over here is named Thomas. Thomas is a thankful turkey, not a Thanksgiving turkey. So if you look at him, you see he's all big and fluffy right now. He waddles and gobbles. The red stuff under his neck is all swelled up. And his snoot, the thing on his face, the thing hanging down the front. He's in showing off mode because he wants your attention. This guy, when I pick him up, he's getting exactly what he wants, which is attention. So he stops actively pumping blood into all of this business. So you see his snoot goes whoop, and draws right up on top of his head like a unicorn horn.
Co-op can deliver to this. I'll have to go get it.
Oh, just schedule.
Yeah, the guy already left, and he won't be here till Monday or Tuesday, and that's too late probably.
So his snoot draws up on top of his head, and all of this starts to shrink because he stops actively pumping blood into it. You guys should give that a feel. When else are you going to feel a live turkey, right? And it feels really weird.
Animals, kids, I'm used to it. It's fine. They really do follow me around.
Yeah, right?
Yeah, I think so.
This one is 3.5 years old. So if you're staying here on the farm, this guy is fully flighted. He shows up at the campfires at night, and he is begging for food, but please don't feed him s'mores. It is tough to get melted marshmallows out of a turkey's feathers. Feel this. Oh, he loves the attention. His mouth isn't big enough to eat it, but if you crush it, he would eat it. Go ahead. All right, guys, now watch. When I set this guy down, he's gonna swell all back up, and his wattles and gobbles are gonna go, get all big again. And this snood, this thing right here is gonna go ding down the front. He's gonna be like, dude, we had a thing going here, what's up? Take him about 40 seconds to get all the way swelled back up. All right, guys, that pig right there and this pig right here are two of the only very few rescue animals on the farm outside of horses. This one is a rescue because when she came here, she was so fat that her fat rolls covered her entire face and she couldn't see at all. And her fat dragged the ground from the front of her face to several inches past her back legs. And the reason she was so fat is the people that had her before us fed her nothing but Cheetos because they were her favorite. And that is just as genius as feeding your children nothing but Cheetos. So that pig was the beginning of the gate system, so that sheep get sheep food, and pigs get pig food, and cow, and so around, so that every animal knows which little gate to be in for their breakfast in the morning. So they all get the proper food and the proper amount for their diet. The gray pig that's right there is a rescue not because the people are bad, but because they bought a pig this big at a pet shop and did not know that they were buying that. And that pig was in a second-story, one-bedroom apartment before it came here. I cannot even imagine dealing with such a litter box as that. She's in here batting cleanup on somebody else's food this morning, licking all the bowls. And pigs do get a winter coat. So if you feel that one, if you've ever bought a boar's bristle brush, that is what you're buying. Is if you pet the pigs, their hairs on them are really, really stiff. That's what a boar's bristle brush is. All right, guys, let's go look at these ones in the pens down here.
Ashley. Ashley. Ashley.
It's not called a show, its name is show. Sheep that looks like a goat. And then we have a second one of those, and its name is Steve. Oh, that one actually is the second one. That's Steve right there. That's the goat looking sheep. Alright guys, this one is an African crested porcupine. Her name is Fluffy. The difference between an African porcupine and an American porcupine is primarily the size. So the African crested porcupine, when she is fully grown, her body can be the size of a German Shepherd and her quills can be more than 3 feet long. The American porcupine, when its quills go into you, they have little hooks on the end, like a fishing hook, so they don't come back out of you. And when you leave from the porcupine, likely at a high rate of speed, the quills will come off and go with you to the nearest hospital instead of staying with the porcupine. This one though, its quills are just straight, so they would just go through you and come back out when you left from the porcupine. So, but her quills are much, much bigger. This next one right here is a fennec fox. This guy's name is Finn. His woman's name is Gwen. These are full size. That is as big as a fennec fox can get. This guy weighs 2 pounds. It is the world's smallest type of fox. These guys come from the deserts of Africa. They live in sand dunes. So they behave a lot like prairie dogs would. They will dig down into the sand and they'll build big dens or burrows or whatever underneath of the sand. There could be 50 or 100 of them living in one burrow. Much like prairie dogs, they make side tunnels for their little family groups, but they do share food and they do work together to have enough to eat and such as that. Some unique factors of a fennec fox: those ears work independently and they hear really well. Depending on topography, they can hear an insect from something like a quarter of a mile off, and then they'll run that thing down and eat it. If they catch something that's bigger than what they can eat themselves, they bring it back to the den and they share with everybody. The fennec fox, in addition to hearing really well with those ears, the ears are their radiators. So they have a tremendous network of blood vessels in those ears that can expand and contract to keep the animal warm or cool. The fennec fox can have a respiration rate of 690 breaths per minute. I'm not sure who held the clock on that. I guess it must have been some kind of high-speed camera. But that's what several different resources say is 690 breaths per minute. So that's like 11 breaths in a second. So 1,000, there was 11 breaths. And their heart rate can be well over 300. So the really high respiration rate and the really high heart rate can help them to stay cool in the desert. They have fur on the bottoms of their feet. So the little furry feet help them to not burn their feet on the sand when they're out in the desert. The little furry feet also make it so that you can't hear them coming. I can tell you from experience, these guys lived in my living room until about 2 or 3 months ago. They could come running all the way across the hardwood floor, jump over the back of the couch and land in your lap, and you never heard it coming. You're like, oh, hey, how you doing? And yeah, they're cool little animals. They only go into heat one time a year. They have one litter a year. That litter could be 4 to 6 pups, and they're little tiny cute things like that. And it is legal to keep one of these as a pet in the state of Tennessee without any kind of license. You can't keep a native fox because that's an animal that's being held captive in its native environment. You can buy one of these as a pet. It is legal without a license. This next guy right here is Bakugan. Bakugan is a Brazilian 3-banded armadillo. So his theory of defense is he will ball up like that and say, I don't believe you can get me. He's pretty accurate on that because this is basically Kevlar. So he's got his 1, 2, 3 moving bands here. They're held together by these lines of skin. And when you look at the front and back half of his carapace, which this is a carapace, not a shell, because this is a mammal, not a reptile. If you look at it towards the light, which I'm standing on the wrong side of all you, but if you look at it towards the light, you can see the little hair sticking through just all over his body because this is a mammal, not a reptile. There are about 50 types of armadillos in the world. The smallest is a pink fairy armadillo. It only weighs a few ounces. The biggest is a giant armadillo that can go a couple 100 pounds. You would just smack that in the nose. That would be a good thing. I had a first grade group out here recently that was all like patting like this, wanting the animals to jump up, and now we're in retrain mode. Learn not to jump or don't stay in the petting farm. So anyhow, if you would correct them, that would be good for them. All right, so this guy, this is his head, this is his tail. He's one of 2 types. It can dovetail together like this to make a complete ball. And the reason his name is Bakugan is my son used to love the Bakugan toys, that it makes into a ball and you try to roll it, and if it lands on its magnet, it just pops out into an animal. That's why he's Bakugan. He makes into a ball and then he pops out to his animal form. This guy, I think one of the coolest things about him is his little ears that go when he opens and closes. And I've recently discovered that this guy is ticklish as all get out. When he just wiggles his feet all around, he's like, oh! And but don't anybody else try to tickle him, because if he snaps down onto your finger, it can break your fingers. But he really balls up hard. But so then when you set him down, he just runs around like a little potato on high heels. This guy is an insectivore. He likes to eat worms and bugs and grubs. He'll eat crickets or ants. He likes hornworms, waxworms, superworms, mealworms, black soldier fly larvae, housefly pupa. We get all these things shipped in for him. This guy can detect a bug something like 8 or 10 inches underground and then dig down and eat it. So a giant anteater takes its tongue and it snakes it down the paths of the anthill to eat the ants, and then it pulls its tongue, its sticky tongue back out, coated in ants. This guy doesn't have a long tongue. He just digs down and grabs them all. And so his name is Bakugan. When I eventually find a woman for him, because I am a teen of the 80s, it's going to be named Shaka Khan. You'll thank me not to try to sing it. All right, guys, we're going to go out the way we came in and then go down this way to start seeing more animals. We're only 1/3 of the way through the tour so far. These are about 5,000.